The great hall of the Interstellar Council stretched high above Commander Park Hyun-woo's head. 12 massive seats formed a circle around the center floor where he stood. Each seat held an alien being from a different world, all looking down at him like judges at a trial. Park kept his face calm and his hands at his sides. He had been Earth's representative to the Council for 3 years now. In all that time, these aliens had never shown him or his planet any real respect. Today felt different, though. Today they seemed angry. The largest alien, a creature with purple skin and 6 arms, leaned forward in its seat. This was Cassandra from the Velthari Empire. Her voice came out like metal scraping against stone when she spoke. "Human," she said, making the words sound dirty. "Your species has enjoyed our protection for too long. The time has come for Earth to prove its worth to this council." Park nodded once but said nothing. Dr. Lee Soo-jin stood beside him, her diplomatic training keeping her face as blank as his. She was Earth's best hope at talking their way out of whatever was coming. But Park had a feeling that talk would not be enough today. Another alien spoke up from across the circle. This one looked like a giant insect with crystal wings. "The Velthari Empire requires new territory for expansion. 3 of your outer colonies have been selected for this purpose." Park felt his jaw tighten, but his expression did not change. The colonies they were talking about held over 2 million human lives. New Seoul, New Busan, and New Incheon were among Earth's most successful settlements beyond the home system. "You will evacuate these worlds within 30 standard days," Cassandra continued. "The populations will be relocated to other human settlements. This is not a request. This is the will of the Council." Dr. Lee stepped forward, her voice steady and professional. "Honored Council members, surely we can discuss alternatives. These colonies represent generations of human effort and development. Perhaps the Velthari would consider other territories that are not currently inhabited." A sound like grinding metal filled the hall. It took Park a moment to realize that some of the aliens were laughing. The noise made his skin crawl. "Dr. Lee," said another council member. This one shaped like a walking tree with too many eyes. "Your species seems to have difficulty understanding its place in galactic civilization. You are the newest members of this council. You hold the lowest rank. When we require something from Earth, you provide it. This is how peace is maintained." Park watched Dr. Lee's hands clench into fists behind her back. She had spent years trying to build relationships with these beings. She had learned their languages, studied their cultures, and treated them with nothing but respect. In return, they spoke to her like she was a child. "The human colonies produce food and materials that feed many worlds." Dr. Lee tried again. "Surely the economic disruption alone would make this transfer inadvisable." Cassandra's 6 arms waved dismissively. "The Velthari will make better use of those resources. Your people are inefficient farmers and poor miners. We will increase production by 300% within the first year." "What about the humans living there?" Park asked quietly. It was the first time he had spoken since entering the hall. "What about them?" replied the insect-like alien. "They will find new homes. Many species have made similar sacrifices for the greater good of galactic peace. Your kind is not special." Park looked around the circle of alien faces. Some watched him with amusement, like adults watching a child throw a tantrum. Others seemed bored, as if this discussion was keeping them from more important matters. None of them looked at him like he was an equal. "Commander Park," said the tree-like being, "we understand that humans form emotional attachments to territory. This is a primitive trait that you will learn to overcome in time. Advanced civilizations think of worlds as resources, not homes. The Velthari Empire has been very patient," Cassandra added. "They could simply take what they need by force. Instead, they have requested council approval for a peaceful transfer. This shows great wisdom and restraint on their part." Dr. Lee looked at Park with worry in her eyes. She knew him well enough to see the anger building behind his calm mask. "Perhaps we could negotiate terms for the evacuation," she suggested. "Additional time for the populations to relocate, compensation for lost infrastructure, guaranteed resettlement assistance." 30 days is sufficient," the insect alien replied. "As for compensation, the Velthari will allow your people to remove personal belongings and small equipment. The colony's industrial facilities and terraforming systems will remain. This is generous beyond what most species would receive." Park felt something cold settle in his stomach. These aliens were not negotiating. They were dictating terms like conquerors to the defeated. The worst part was that they seemed to think they were being kind about it. What if Earth refuses? he asked. The laughter returned louder this time. Kixandra's purple face split into what might have been a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. Commander, your entire species controls perhaps 50 worlds. The Velthari Empire alone holds over 3,000. The combined might of the Council represents 12 civilizations spanning 40,000 star systems. Your ships are barely capable of interstellar travel. Your weapons are chemical propellants and primitive energy beams. She gestured with two of her arms toward the great windows that showed the space around the Council station. Dozens of massive alien warships hung in the darkness like sleeping giants. If Earth chooses to resist, these fleets will ensure compliance. But it will not come to that. Your species is not stupid enough to fight a war they cannot win. Park looked at each council member in turn. They all wore the same expression of smug certainty. In their minds, humanity was already beaten. The only question was whether Earth would submit gracefully or need to be taught a lesson first. We will need time to consider your terms, Park said finally. Of course, Kixandra replied with false kindness. You may have 72 standard hours to discuss this matter with your government. When you return, we will expect Earth's formal acceptance of the transfer agreement. The council session ended with the same ceremony it had begun. The aliens filed out of their great seats, chatting among themselves in various languages. Park caught fragments of their conversations. They were already discussing how to divide the human colonies among themselves, what resources could be extracted first, and which of their own species would make the best administrators for the conquered worlds. Dr. Lee waited until they were alone before speaking. Hyunwoo, what are we going to do? They're not bluffing. If we refuse, they really will send those fleets to force compliance. Park looked out at the alien warships floating in space around them. Each one was larger than Earth's entire space navy. The technology gap between humanity and these civilizations seemed impossible to bridge. But Park was thinking about something else. He was thinking about a conversation he had had with Admiral Choi 3 months ago. A conversation about contingency plans and hidden preparations. A conversation about what Earth would do if diplomacy failed. We're going to go home, he said quietly. And we're going to give our government the Council's message. All of it. Dr. Lee studied his face, trying to read the thoughts behind his calm expression. And then, Park turned away from the window and the alien fleet. When he spoke, his voice was soft but carried an edge of steel that made Dr. Lee shiver. Then we see how merciful humanity chooses to be. The secure communication chamber deep beneath Seoul's military headquarters had no windows and no decorations. Admiral Choi Min-ho sat at the head of a metal table, his weathered face lit by the glow of holographic displays. Around him, Earth's highest-ranking military officials listened in silence as Commander Park finished his report. So they want 3 colonies as tribute, Admiral Choi said when Park was done. His voice carried no emotion, but his knuckles were white where his hands gripped the table edge. And they gave us 72 hours to agree. Yes, sir, Park replied. They made it clear that refusal would mean military action against Earth. Major Yoon Ji-hai leaned forward in her chair. She was young for such a high position, but her intelligence work had saved Earth from disaster more than once. Admiral, our latest reports show the Council has over 40,000 warships positioned throughout their territories. If they bring even 10% of that force against us— I know the numbers, Major, Admiral Choi interrupted. He stood and walked to the largest holographic display, which showed a 3-dimensional map of known space. Thousands of points of light marked star systems controlled by Council species. Earth's territory looked tiny in comparison. Captain Kim Tae-ho cleared his throat. He commanded Earth's deep space reconnaissance fleet, though few people knew what his ships really did out there in the dark between stars. Sir, if I may suggest, the Council's confidence might be their weakness. They think they know everything about our capabilities. Admiral Choi turned to look at him. Go on, Captain. They see our ships as primitive because we built them to look that way. They think our weapons are weak because we've never shown them our real ones. For 15 years, we've let them believe we're barely capable of space travel. Engineer Bae Won-sik nodded from his seat near the back of the room. He rarely spoke in these meetings, but when he did, everyone listened. His designs had revolutionized Earth's military technology in ways the Council could never imagine. The stealth systems are working perfectly, Bae said in his quiet voice. Council sensors still read our advanced ships as space debris or small asteroids. They have no idea how many vessels we actually have deployed. Admiral Choi smiled for the first time since the meeting began. It was not a pleasant expression. Major Yoon, what do our intelligence networks tell us about Council military readiness? Major Yoon activated her own holographic display. Images of alien worlds and space stations filled the air around the table. Sir, they've grown comfortable. Too comfortable. Their defense systems are designed to fight other Council species using similar technology and tactics. They've never faced anything like what we can deploy. Their homeworlds are particularly vulnerable, she continued. Most species moved their populations to fortress worlds generations ago, leaving their original planets lightly defended. They assume no one would dare attack Council territory directly. Park studied the intelligence reports with growing amazement. While he had been playing diplomat with the aliens, Earth's military had been mapping every important target in Council space: supply lines, communication hubs, fleet positions, population centers. Everything was documented and analyzed. Captain Kim, Admiral Choi said, how many of your reconnaissance ships are currently in Council territory? 43 vessels, sir. All running full stealth mode. They're positioned within striking distance of every Council homeworld and major installation. And they still don't know we're there? No, sir. To their sensors, we don't exist. Admiral Choi walked back to his chair but did not sit down. Engineer Bay, are the quantum phase weapons ready for deployment? Bay nodded slowly. All systems tested and operational, sir. The Council's energy shields won't even detect them, let alone stop them. Their defensive technology is based on deflecting or absorbing energy attacks. Our weapons bypass those defenses entirely. What about the Planet Killer class vessels? 12 ships completed and tested, sir. They're currently disguised as cargo haulers and positioned throughout Council space. Each one carries enough firepower to sterilize a world without cracking the planet itself. Park felt his breath catch in his throat. Planet killers. He had known Earth was preparing for possible conflict, but he had never imagined anything on this scale. Major Yoon noticed his expression and smiled grimly. Commander, while you were negotiating with the Council, we were preparing for the day negotiation would fail. Every cargo ship, every research vessel, every mining platform that entered Council space in the last 5 years carried hidden military systems. Our primitive technology includes weapons the Council has never seen before, Admiral Choi added. Quantum phase cannons that can target specific molecular structures. Temporal manipulation devices that can age enemy ships to dust in seconds. Gravity weapons that can create localized black holes. Captain Kim activated another display showing Earth's hidden fleet positions. We have over 300 advanced warships deployed throughout the galaxy, sir. The Council thinks we have maybe 30 ships total. And our special forces? Admiral Choi asked. Lieutenant Colonel Shin's teams have been infiltrating Council installations for months, Major Yoon reported. They're already in position on key worlds and space stations. The aliens still don't understand how humans can move through their security systems undetected. Park realized his mouth was hanging open and closed it quickly. How long have you been planning this? Since the day we first made contact with the Council, Admiral Choi replied. We knew that eventually they would try to dominate or destroy us. That's what powerful civilizations do to weaker ones, so we made sure we wouldn't be weak when that day came. Engineer Bay pulled up technical specifications that made Park's head spin. The Council's technology is impressive, but it follows predictable patterns. They rely on brute force and overwhelming numbers. Human engineering took a different approach. We focused on precision, stealth, and weapons they couldn't defend against. Their ships are bigger and carry more firepower, Major Yoon explained. But they're also easier targets. Our vessels can phase in and out of normal spacetime, making us nearly impossible to hit. When we do attack, their shields and armor are useless against our weapons. Admiral Choi sat down and looked directly at Park. Commander, I need you to understand something. Earth is not the helpless planet the Council thinks we are. We've been preparing for this war since before you were born. Every diplomatic meeting, every trade negotiation, every cultural exchange has been gathering intelligence and positioning our assets. The colonies they want to steal from us, Captain Kim added, those aren't just settlements. They're strategic military positions with hidden defense systems and supply depots. If the Council tries to take them by force, they'll get a very unpleasant surprise. Park looked around the room at faces he thought he knew. These people had been planning humanity's defense while letting him believe Earth was vulnerable and dependent on alien goodwill. What happens now? He asked. Now we give the Council exactly what they asked for, Admiral Choi said with that cold smile returning. A response from Earth, but I don't think they're going to like what we have to say. Major Yoon began shutting down the holographic displays. Commander, when you return to the Council station, you'll be carrying Earth's official answer to their demands. You'll also be carrying a signal beacon that will activate our hidden assets throughout Council space. The moment you deliver our message, Captain Kim explained, every Council homeworld will discover they have uninvited guests in their star systems. Ships they never saw coming, positioned exactly where they can do the most damage. Engineer Bay packed his technical specifications back into a secure case. The Council believes their technology makes them untouchable. They're about to learn that human science took a very different path than theirs, a much more dangerous path. Admiral Choi stood and walked toward the door. Get some rest, Commander. Tomorrow you're going to deliver the most important message in human history. And after that? He paused in the doorway and looked back at Park with eyes like winter ice. After that, we'll see just how peaceful the Council really wants to be. The secure chamber fell silent after the Admiral left. Park sat alone with the weight of what he had learned pressing down on him like a physical force. Earth was not the weak civilization playing at galactic politics that everyone believed. Humanity had been preparing for war from the very beginning. And now that war was about to begin. The Council chamber looked exactly the same as it had 3 days ago, but Commander Park felt like he was seeing it for the first time. The 12 alien representatives sat in their massive chairs, looking down at him with the same smug confidence they had shown before. They expected him to bring Earth's surrender. Dr. Lee Soo-jin stood beside him again, but this time she knew what was really going to happen. Admiral Choi had briefed her during the flight back to the Council station. The shock on her face had been worth seeing. Kixandra leaned forward in her seat, her purple skin gleaming under the chamber's lights. Commander Park, I trust Earth has had sufficient time to consider our generous offer. Park nodded once. Yes, we have considered it very carefully. Excellent. The insect-like alien chirped from across the circle. When will the evacuation of the 3 colonies begin? Park reached into his uniform jacket and pulled out a small device that looked like a communication pad. He held it in both hands and looked up at the circle of alien faces. I have Earth's official response to your demands, he said in a clear, steady voice. Get on with it then, growled another council member, a creature that looked like a walking crystal formation. Some of us have important business to attend to. Park activated the device. His words echoed through the great chamber with perfect clarity. The human colonies are not for sale, trade, or tribute. Any attempt to take them will be considered an act of war against Earth and all humanity. The silence that followed lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then the laughter began. Kixandra threw back her head and made that awful grinding metal sound that passed for alien laughter. Commander, did you perhaps misunderstand our previous conversation? This was not a negotiation. This was an order. Your species controls 50 worlds, the crystal being added still chuckling. We control 40,000. Do you truly believe you can threaten us? The tree-like alien with too many eyes waved several branch arms dismissively. Commander, I understand that humans have difficulty accepting reality, but this display of bravado is embarrassing. For your own sake, please reconsider. Park kept his expression calm, but inside he felt a cold satisfaction building. These aliens were so certain of their superiority. They had no idea what was about to happen. Earth's position is final, he said simply. More laughter filled the chamber. The insect alien's crystal wings buzzed with amusement. Very well, Commander. Since your species seems determined to learn the hard way, we will provide the education you require. Kixandra gestured toward the great windows that showed space around the council station. Perhaps you should look outside and reconsider your position. Park turned to look, already knowing what he would see. The alien fleets hung in space exactly where they had been before. Dozens of massive warships representing the combined military might of 12 civilizations. To anyone watching, humanity's situation looked hopeless. Impressive ships, Park said without emotion. Are they supposed to frighten us? They should terrify you, Kixandra replied. Each of those vessels carries more firepower than your entire planetary defense network, and this is only a small fraction of our total fleet strength. Park nodded thoughtfully and pressed another button on his device. I'm sure they're very advanced, but I wonder if you've noticed the other ships that just arrived. The aliens looked toward the windows with expressions of confusion. Space around the council station looked exactly the same as it had moments before. Nothing had changed. Commander, the crystal being said with obvious irritation, there are no other ships. Your delusions will not change reality. Major Yoon, Park said into his communication device, please make our fleet visible. What happened next would be remembered throughout the galaxy for generations to come. The empty space around the council station suddenly filled with ships. Not dozens like the alien fleet, but hundreds. Sleek, deadly vessels that materialized from apparent nothingness, surrounding the council forces completely. The alien laughter died instantly. Emergency alarms began screaming throughout the station as council sensors tried to process what they were seeing. Ships that hadn't existed seconds ago now filled their displays. Impossible, whispered the tree-like alien, its many eyes wide with shock. Our sensors detected nothing. How did they get so close? Park smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. The same way Lieutenant Colonel Shin's Special Forces teams got aboard your space stations. As if summoned by his words, figures in dark combat suits began appearing throughout the council chamber. They seemed to step out of the walls themselves, moving like ghosts through what should have been impenetrable alien security systems. The council members scrambled backward in their chairs as human soldiers took positions around the room. None of the aliens had even seen them coming. Security! Kixandra screamed into her communicator. Security to the council chamber immediately. Lieutenant Colonel Shin Da-eun materialized beside Park's position, removing her helmet to reveal a young woman's face with cold, professional eyes. I'm afraid your security teams are currently indisposed, council member. My people have been aboard this station for weeks. We know every corridor, every system, every weakness. The aliens stared at her in disbelief. Their advanced sensors and security systems were supposed to make infiltration impossible, yet these humans had walked through their defenses like they didn't exist. This is impossible, the insect alien chittered. Our technology is centuries ahead of yours. How are you doing this? Park looked up at the circle of alien faces. No longer smug and confident, now filled with fear and confusion. You assumed we were primitive because we let you think so. You never bothered to investigate what human science could really accomplish when we put our minds to it. Through the great windows, the space battle began. The massive alien warships opened fire on the human fleet with weapons that could shatter moons. Energy beams and missile barrages filled the darkness between the ships. But something was wrong. The human vessels moved through the alien attacks like they weren't there. Weapons that should have vaporized them simply passed through empty space. The human ships seemed to exist in several dimensions at once, solid when they wanted to fire back, ghostly when under attack. Quantum phase technology, Park explained, watching the aliens' faces as their supposedly invincible fleet failed to land a single hit. We learned to manipulate space-time itself. Your weapons can't hurt what they can't properly target. The human ships began returning fire. When their weapons struck the alien vessels, the results were unlike anything the Council had seen before. Entire sections of enemy ships simply ceased to exist, unraveled at the molecular level by forces that bypassed every known defense. Your shields are useless against quantum phase weapons, Lieutenant Colonel Shin added helpfully. They're designed to stop energy attacks and projectiles. Our weapons attack the fundamental structure of matter itself. Commander Nam Ho-jun's voice came through Park's communicator from the flagship Silent Thunder. Commander, all Council defense platforms have been neutralized. Enemy fleet is down 60% and falling. No human casualties reported. The tree-like alien made a sound like breaking branches. 60%? In just minutes? How many ships do you have out there? Enough, Park replied simply. He activated his communicator again. Commander Nam, please demonstrate the Planet Killer class weapons for our Council friends. On the tactical displays around the chamber, the aliens watched as several large human ships began transforming. What had appeared to be harmless cargo vessels unfolded like deadly flowers, revealing weapon systems that made the Council fleet look like children's toys. "Those are planet killers," Park said as the massive guns powered up. "Each one can sterilize a world without cracking the crust. We have 12 of them positioned throughout Council space, aimed at your most important worlds." Kixandra's purple skin had gone pale. "You're bluffing. You wouldn't dare attack civilian populations." Park's expression hardened. "You were willing to steal 3 million human lives for your expansion. What makes you think we care more about yours than you cared about ours?" The crystal being tried to stand but fell back into its chair. "This is madness. You can't fight the entire Council. Even if you defeat this fleet, we have thousands more ships." "Do you?" Park asked. He activated his communicator one final time. "All stations, this is Commander Park. Execute Protocol 7. Throughout the galaxy, on dozens of worlds that thought they were safe behind impenetrable defenses, human ships began revealing themselves. The same pattern repeated everywhere. Vessels materializing from stealth, defense platforms going silent, orbital stations finding themselves surrounded by enemies that shouldn't exist. Major Yoon's voice came through the speakers. "Admiral, all Council homeworlds report human fleet presence. Defense systems neutralized across all primary targets. Secondary objectives secured. Awaiting orders." The Council chamber fell completely, silent except for the hum of alien machinery and the distant sounds of their fleet being systematically destroyed. The most powerful civilizations in the galaxy had been outplayed by the species they thought was barely capable of space travel. Park looked up at each alien representative in turn, seeing fear and disbelief replace the arrogance that had filled their faces just minutes before. The Emergency War Council convened in the deepest bunker beneath the Velthari homeworld. Kixandra paced back and forth across the metal floor, her 6 arms gesturing wildly as she spoke to the holographic images of the other Council leaders. "This is unacceptable," she snarled. "No primitive species should possess such weapons. The humans must have stolen this technology from somewhere." The crystal being's image flickered with static interference. "It doesn't matter how they got it. What matters is that they caught us completely unprepared. Half our defense fleets are gone and they did it in less than an hour." The tree-like alien's many eyes blinked rapidly with stress. "Our intelligence services have been studying Earth for decades. How did we miss something this significant?" Representative Morduke of the Hegemony spoke from his heavily shielded command center. "Because we underestimated them. We saw their crude chemical rockets and assumed they were centuries behind us. We never imagined they might be hiding advanced technology." Kixandra stopped pacing and slammed one of her fists on the table. "Hiding or not, they're still just one species. We represent 12 civilizations spanning 40,000 worlds. Even with their surprise attack, they can't possibly stand against our combined might." The insect alien's wings buzzed with agitation. "Kixandra, they destroyed 60% of our fleet without losing a single ship. Their weapons go through our shields like they don't exist, and somehow they manage to position forces around every one of our homeworlds without us detecting them." "So we adapt," Kixandra replied. "We study their technology, develop countermeasures, and crush them with overwhelming numbers. The humans may have won the first battle, but wars are not decided by single engagements." The emergency session continued for hours as the Council leaders tried to make sense of what had happened. Reports kept coming in from across the galaxy, each one worse than the last. Human ships had appeared in systems that should have been impossible to reach undetected. Ancient defense networks that had protected worlds for millennia had gone silent without explanation. 3 days later, the largest military fleet in galactic history assembled at the Velthari Empire's primary staging ground. Ships from all 12 Council civilizations filled the space around the fortress world of Kethmaran. Over 8,000 vessels representing the finest military technology the galaxy had to offer. Fleet Admiral Song Min-ah watched the enemy gathering from the bridge of her flagship, the Soul's Pride. The human fleet defending the new Soul colony looked pitifully small in comparison, only 40 ships against 8,000. But appearances could be deceiving. "Captain O," Admiral Song said to her fighter wing commander, "Are your pilots ready?" Captain O Sang-woo grinned from his fighter cockpit. "More than ready, Admiral. We've been waiting 3 years for a real test of the new systems. Dr. Ko, status on the quantum field generators?" Dr. Ko Youngmi looked up from her console, her face showing the intense concentration of someone working with forces that could tear apart reality itself. All systems operating within normal parameters, Admiral. We're ready to demonstrate why the Council should have left us alone. The Council fleet approached New Seoul with the confidence of overwhelming numerical superiority. Kixandra personally commanded the operation from her massive flagship, determined to prove that human tricks could not overcome traditional military might. All ships maintain formation, she ordered. Remember, these humans rely on stealth and surprise. They cannot hide from 8,000 sensor arrays working together. The battle began as the Council fleet entered weapons range. Thousands of energy beams and missile salvos streaked across space toward the human positions. It should have been a massacre. The humans were outnumbered 200 to 1. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ships began moving in ways that violated everything the Council knew about physics. They slipped between dimensions, existing in normal space one moment and somewhere else entirely the next. The massive alien barrage passed harmlessly through empty space. What in the void are they doing? Demanded the crystal being from his command ship. Our weapons are targeting them directly. Quantum phase movement, Admiral Song explained over an open channel, her voice calm and professional. We learned to step partially outside normal spacetime. Your targeting systems can't lock onto something that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Captain O's fighter squadron demonstrated the next surprise. The small human craft moved through the alien formation like ghosts, impossible to track or target. But when they opened fire, their weapons had devastating effects on the massive enemy vessels. One of O's pilots, Lieutenant Park Ji-won, flew her fighter straight through a Velthari battleship's main hull. The ship's shields and armor offered no resistance as she passed through them like they were made of air. When she emerged on the other side, the battleship simply came apart, its molecular structure destabilized by her passage. Impossible, whispered Kixandra, watching her fleet begin to disintegrate around her. Nothing can pass through solid matter like that. We can, Captain O replied cheerfully. Turns out if you understand quantum mechanics well enough, the difference between solid and empty space becomes negotiable. The Council ships tried to adapt, spreading their formation and using different weapons. Nothing worked. Human vessels phased in and out of reality, striking from impossible angles before vanishing again. When the aliens managed to target them, their weapons simply passed through the human ships without effect. Dr. Ko decided it was time for the real demonstration. Admiral, shall I activate the temporal displacement field? Do it, Doctor. Show them what human science can really accomplish. What happened next would be talked about in alien military academies for centuries. A section of the Council fleet suddenly began aging rapidly. Ships that had been constructed days earlier became ancient hulks in seconds. Hull metal corroded and collapsed. Energy systems failed as their components aged beyond usefulness. Entire squadrons turned to drifting scrap without a shot being fired. We're manipulating local time flow, Dr. Ko explained to the horrified alien commanders. Those ships experienced several centuries of entropy in about 30 seconds. Don't worry, the effect is reversible if you surrender now. Other human ships demonstrated different impossible technologies. Commander Nam's vessel created localized gravity wells that compressed attacking formations into tiny, dense spheres. Another ship used dimensional rifts to redirect the aliens' own weapons back at them with perfect accuracy. The battle that was supposed to prove Council superiority became a demonstration of human dominance. 8,000 ships found themselves helplessly outmatched by 40 vessels using technology that seemed to break the laws of physics. All ships retreat. Kixandra screamed into her communicator as her flagship's hull began showing signs of rapid aging. Fall back to minimum safe distance. But retreat was not an option. The human ships moved faster than anything the Council had ever seen, cutting off escape routes and surrounding fleeing vessels. In less than 2 hours, the greatest military fleet in galactic history was reduced to scattered remnants. Admiral Song opened a channel to all surviving Council ships. This is Fleet Admiral Song of Earth Defense Command. You have lost 75% of your fleet. Your remaining ships are surrounded and outgunned. I offer you one chance to surrender with honor. Kixandra's response came through gritted teeth. What are your terms? Complete withdrawal from all human territory. Immediate cessation of hostilities. Recognition of Earth as a sovereign power with full council rights and privileges. And if we refuse? Admiral Song's voice remained pleasant and professional, Then we demonstrate what our planet-killer weapons can actually do. Dr. Ko has been wanting to test the stellar manipulation systems. Your son would make an excellent target. The silence that followed lasted 10 minutes. Finally, Kixandra's defeated voice came over the communication channel. We accept your terms. Captain O performed a victory loop in his fighter before heading back to the Soul's Pride. Admiral, that was even easier than the simulations predicted. Admiral Song watched the remnants of the Council fleet limping away from New Seoul, their pride broken and their confidence shattered. Captain, I don't think they realized yet that we were holding back. If we'd used the full power of our weapon systems, none of their ships would have survived at all. Dr. Ko shut down the temporal displacement fields, allowing the aged Council ships to return to normal time flow. Should we tell them that this was just a demonstration? That we have weapons capable of unmaking entire star systems? No, Doctor. Let them wonder. Fear of the unknown is often more effective than fear of the known. The Battle of New Seoul ended human history's shortest interstellar war. In less than a week, Earth had gone from being the Council's weakest member to its undisputed master. And the galaxy was beginning to understand that humanity had been planning this moment for a very long time. The Council chamber felt different now. The same 12 massive seats formed their circle around the center floor, but the beings sitting in them no longer looked down with arrogance. They watched President Han So-young with the careful attention of prey animals studying a predator. Han had arrived on Earth's newest flagship, the Inchen's Hammer, accompanied by a full diplomatic escort and enough firepower to level a moon. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer asking for permission to exist in galactic civilization. Commander Park stood at her right side, while General Lee Jae-won flanked her left. The general's presence sent its own message. Earth was no longer sending just diplomats to these meetings. Honored council members, President Han began, her voice carrying easily through the great chamber. I understand you requested this meeting to discuss the terms of our new relationship. Kixandra, her purple skin still pale from the shock of defeat, spoke first. President Han, the Velthari Empire wishes to express our regret for the misunderstanding that led to recent hostilities. Han's eyebrow rose slightly. Misunderstanding? You demanded 3 of our colonies as tribute and threatened military action if we refused. That seems fairly clear to me. The crystal being shifted uncomfortably in its seat. Perhaps our previous communications lacked the proper diplomatic tone. We are prepared to discuss more appropriate arrangements. I'm sure you are, Han replied. But before we begin new negotiations, I think we need to establish some basic facts about the current situation. She activated a holographic display that filled the air above the chamber floor. Images of devastated council fleets and surrounded homeworlds appeared for all to see. Earth currently has military assets positioned throughout council space, Han continued matter-of-factly. Our intelligence networks have been operating on your worlds for over a decade. Our technology is demonstrably superior to yours in every meaningful way. The tree-like alien made a sound like rustling leaves. President Han, surely you don't intend to become galactic conquerors. Your species has always claimed to value peace and cooperation. Han smiled, but it was not a warm expression. We do value peace, council member, which is why we're going to make sure it's maintained. General Lee stepped forward and activated his own display. New galactic security protocols are now in effect. All council military movements will be monitored by Earth Defense Command. Any buildup of forces that could threaten human interest will be met with immediate intervention. You're talking about occupation, whispered the insect alien, its crystal wings trembling. I'm talking about preventing future wars, General Lee replied calmly. Your species spent centuries fighting each other before forming the council. Earth will ensure those conflicts don't resume. Han gestured to another holographic display showing trade routes and resource flows throughout the galaxy. Economic relations will also be restructured. Earth will be taking a more active role in galactic commerce and resource distribution. More active role? Kixandra asked, though she seemed afraid to hear the answer. We'll be managing galactic trade to ensure fair distribution of resources and prevent economic exploitation, Han explained. No more tribute systems. No more forcing weaker species to surrender their territory or wealth. Commander Park spoke for the first time since entering the chamber. The old system where strong civilizations dominated weak ones is over. Earth will be watching to make sure everyone plays fair. The council members exchanged nervous glances. Representative Morduk of the Hegemony, finally found the courage to ask the question they were all thinking. What exactly do you want from us? President Han's expression softened slightly. What we've always wanted. To be left alone to live our lives in peace. To trade freely with our neighbors. To explore the galaxy without fear of being attacked or enslaved. That's all? The crystal being asked suspiciously. That's everything, Han replied. The only difference now is that we have the power to guarantee it. General Lee brought up another display showing Earth's true military strength. The numbers made several council members gasp in shock. Thousands of advanced warships, millions of soldiers, weapon systems that could reshape reality itself. This is what we were building while you thought we were primitive, General Lee explained. Every year you ignored us, every time you dismissed us as irrelevant, we got stronger. But why? Kixandra asked. Why build such massive military forces if you only wanted to be left alone? Han's expression hardened again. Because we studied galactic history, we saw what happened to every species that couldn't defend itself. They were conquered, enslaved, or exterminated by their stronger neighbors. We learned that in this galaxy, peace only exists when you're strong enough to enforce it, Commander Park added. So we made sure we would be strong enough. The tree-like alien's many eyes blinked rapidly. What happens now? Do you intend to rule us like we once ruled our subject species? No, Han said firmly. We intend to make sure no one rules anyone through force ever again. The Council will continue to exist, but as a forum for cooperation rather than domination. She activated a final display showing the new governmental structure Earth was proposing. All species will have equal representation. Decisions will be made by consensus rather than by the strongest military, forcing their will on everyone else. And if we refuse to accept this new system? The insect alien asked. General Lee's smile was Arctic cold. Then you'll discover what our planet-killer weapons can really do. We've been very gentle so far. That can change. The chamber fell silent as the council members absorbed what they were hearing. Earth was not offering them a choice. They were being informed of how things would be from now on. There is one more thing, President Han said, breaking the silence. Earth will be establishing permanent monitoring stations throughout Council space. These will be staffed by human personnel and equipped with our most advanced surveillance systems. Monitoring stations? Kixandra repeated weakly. To make sure everyone follows the new rules, Han explained pleasantly. Any attempts to build weapons of mass destruction, plot against your neighbors, or threaten human interests will be detected and stopped immediately. Commander Park stepped forward with a formal document. The new Galactic Cooperation Treaty. All Council species will sign it within the next 30 days. The crystal being looked at the treaty terms and made a sound like breaking glass. These terms essentially make Earth the supreme authority in the galaxy. Yes, Han agreed without hesitation. They do. We tried being equal partners. We tried diplomatic cooperation. You responded by demanding tribute and threatening war. So now we'll try something different. General Lee checked his timepiece. President Han, we should begin the inspection tours of Council military facilities. The other worlds are waiting. Of course, General. Council members, our technical teams will be visiting your homeworlds over the next few weeks to catalog your military assets and ensure compliance with the new security protocols. The alien representatives sat in stunned silence as the reality of their situation fully sank in. The species they had dismissed as barely sapient had just conquered the entire galaxy without breaking a sweat. One final point, President Han said as she prepared to leave. Earth bears no ill will toward any Council species. We want to build a better galaxy where all civilizations can prosper in peace, but that peace will be enforced by human power, and any attempts to return to the old ways of conquest and domination will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. She paused at the chamber entrance and looked back at the 12 defeated aliens. We hope you'll choose to be our partners in building this new galaxy. But partnership is voluntary. Compliance with the new order is not. The great doors closed behind the human delegation, leaving the Council members alone with their shattered pride and broken dreams of dominance. Outside the station, the combined fleets of Earth Defense Command waited patiently for orders. The age of alien supremacy was over. The age of human guardianship had begun. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to change in ways no one had imagined possible. Wars between species ended overnight, when Earth's monitoring systems detected the first signs of military buildup. Pirates and raiders found themselves facing human patrol fleets that seemed to appear from nowhere. Trade routes that had been dominated by powerful civilizations for millennia opened to all species equally. Worlds that had lived in fear of their stronger neighbors suddenly found themselves under Earth's protection. The council chamber still met regularly, but now it was truly a place of cooperation rather than domination, and watching over every session, ensuring that the strong could never again prey upon the weak, were humanity's quiet guardians. Commander Park had been right that day in the chamber, when he spoke of mercy. Earth had shown the galaxy mercy by choosing to be its protector, rather than its conqueror. But every alien civilization now understood the terrible power that backed up that mercy. Peace, it turned out, was much easier to maintain when everyone knew exactly what would happen if they broke it. The galaxy had learned to fear Earth's merciless response to aggression. Now it was learning to appreciate Earth's merciful approach to peace.